Good morning, everybody. It is exactly midnight here now. Yep, exactly midnight. I am on time. I didn't think I was going to be because I was running horrendously late. But we're good. And so far we have Raina here. Y64 Studios is here. We have 5 other people watching. Bobby Booth has just appeared and said hello. So that's 2 people in the chat already. That's awesome. Bear with me 1 second. There might be a loud pop, so mute your speakers, folks. Just in case we need the piano is on. And Beatrice is here, my good friend Beatrice. And she says, good morning, good evening, everybody. So yes, over in the United States, it would be about tea time on a Sunday evening. So I hope everyone's doing well. And over in Europe, it is going to be 1 a.m. Central European time. And the further towards Australia you go, the later in the night it is. So that's awesome. So my friend Vatcher, down under in Australia, this would be like 11 o'clock in the morning for him. So I hope he is able to take a wee coffee break and drop in. That'd be awesome. Peter says, there are 3 things in life I really like: Big Mac with chips, kittens, and the Jonny Lipsham live show. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind. Big Mac with chips. What are you saying? That I promote cardiovascular disease? I don't know. Or that I'm just very good value for money. Probably because this doesn't cost anybody anything, which is cool. We have a new person here, or at least a name that I am not familiar with. Somebody called Rauno Morja is here with a smiley face. Thank you very much. Good evening, good morning to you. We've got 9 people in the room, and I'm told that at some point the legendary Skip Jones will appear, which would be epic if he does. Woodbeast is here, who has just left a very nice comment on my Studio Refurb video. Thank you very much for that. And he says, hello, JL fans. Now, I have had a couple of new subscribers this evening, which is very cool. I like getting new subscribers. We are extremely close to 800 subscribers. So that's very cool. I'm very excited by that because it was only, 3 months ago that I did a video thanking because we'd passed 500 subscribers. So it's just like a thank you to all my subscribers. And in that short space of time, we've got 791. It might even be more than that now. But we are extremely close to 800. It'd be really cool if we turned 800 before Christmas. I know we've got like 24 days or so to do that. So it'd be great if we could pass 800. Peter says, any topic for the evening? Advent tunes, maybe. Skip is here. The legend that is Skip Jones is here. Skip doesn't, generally speaking, like me singing his praises, but I'm going to anyway, Skip. In fact, we just had a new subscriber. Somebody called Encryptor has just subscribed. Thank you very much for that. And he is here, 795. Well, thank you very much, Encryptor, for joining me and becoming my 795th subscriber. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. So just 5 more to get in the next 24 days or so. That'd be amazing. Riffman Rob is here, who says, everyone hit the like button for me. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it. I've got 7 already, which is, we've got 16 in the room, which is awesome. So Peter was asking, do I have any topic? Well, ordinarily I would have, I say ordinarily, I actually was going to have a topic for tonight. However, my son has been sick all day today, so he's been off. We've been stuck at home all day, so no topic for tonight. So basically, just a general speaking question and answer session. So if you have any questions regarding mixing, mastering, recording, songwriting, arranging, anything music production related and related to PreSonus gear and Studio One. But it doesn't have to be PreSonus. It could, if you're using other gear other than PreSonus, that's fine. I don't object to that. Don't have a problem with that at all. There are an awful lot of fantastic gear manufacturers out there. So yeah, bring on your questions, folks. Now, my chat I have set into slow mode, which helps me not miss subscribers. So subscribers, it helps me not miss questions. So you guys are gonna have to type your questions pretty quickly so that there are no pauses at this end, because there is always a little bit of a delay. Encryptor says, just saw this link on the PreSonus group on Facebook. Curious. Saw some good vids on your page, so you subscribed. Well, thank you very much, Encryptor. I appreciate it. And I thank you very much for your kind words about my videos. Yes, I work hard at making my videos. I've taken a little break just of late from video production whilst I've been refurbing the studio. I put up a little video about that this afternoon. A little 4.5, nearly 5-minute video on how I refurbed this studio, and my wife makes a guest appearance in that, although she doesn't know that yet, so shh. Skip Jones says, 5 new subscribers, easy, I'm working on it. Awesome. Thank you, Skip. YC64 Studio, that is my good friend over in Germany, who is Rainer. He says, try the whole day to install a USB micro to work on Studio One. A USB micro. Oh, do you mean a USB port of some kind? I'm not really sure. Whitby says, Skip, offer new subscribers a free set of air guitar strings. Yes, actually, I can put you in touch with a wonderful manufacturer of air bass strings. I am officially endorsed, or rather, I officially endorse his products, and he is based in Cape Town, South Africa. Yeah, okay. It's half true. I do actually endorse an independent manufacturer in South Africa for real, actual bass strings. But yeah, I just thought that'd be funny. John Anderson is here. Good to see you, buddy. He says, happy Sunday all. Sorry for being late. Getting ready to put my chicken on the barbie. Awesome. Yeah, we don't have that weather here, unfortunately. I know you're not playing with dolls. Glad to hear it, John. And if you were, that's really something I would recommend you keep to yourself. Bobby Booth says, trying to learn my new plugins that I got from IK Multimedia. Yes, my good friend Bobby is one of those very, very, very blessed people who has a knack at winning things in contests. And he managed to bag himself about, was it $4,000 worth of gear from IK Multimedia? That's awesome. And you'll never get to the end of those, I'm pretty sure. And I hope it doesn't make you acquire gas. You don't want that. Oh, Raina's saying a microphone, a USB microphone to produce tutorials in German. Yeah, you're looking at the USB route. I would avoid a USB microphone if at all possible. I don't recommend them, to be honest. Other people may have different opinions, but really, I don't recommend a USB. Oh, $1,000, Bobby. Okay. Yeah, I don't recommend a USB microphone. If you need a microphone for making tutorials, I would recommend just a condenser microphone or a dynamic. If your room is very, very lively, then I would recommend a dynamic microphone, and you can put a pop filter in front of it. That would be fine, or even get one of those pop filters that just sits directly on top of the mic, right over the capsule. That would be a good thing to do. And I would recommend going via your interface. Now, it does mean if you are a Windows user, you're going to have a wee problem, because ASIO in Windows takes control of the entire sound card. You cannot share the sound card with another device that needs access to it. So the solution really for that is having two interfaces. On Mac, it's not necessarily so much of a problem because you can aggregate devices, but not in the Windows environment, unfortunately. Oh, that's a Facebook message from my good friend Derek. And he can't reproduce that. Okay. I will look into that, Derek, although you're not on my stream, so you're not going to hear that. Yes. If you're doing tutorials, you're going to need two interfaces. One for your Studio One audio, and you plug your live mic into that interface, and then you take your outputs out of that interface, and you go into the inputs of your second interface. Now, your second interface must be an interface that does not share the same driver as the first interface. So preferably a different manufacturer. That's what I use. I have a PreSonus AudioBox USB as my primary interface, and all of my audio, so Windows sounds, YouTube, everything goes through that. Studio One, this microphone is going through it right now. But my audio is going into my PreSonus Monitor Station version 2, which is just outshot here. You can't see it. But then I have a set of outputs coming from there, going into my second interface, which is the Alesis IO2. And my screen capture software for making tutorials listens to that second interface. So everything gets summed effectively to that second interface. And that's how you have to do it in a Windows environment, unfortunately, until such time as Windows work out a way to create aggregation for their audio codec or something like that. Let's see. Have I missed any questions whilst I've been rabbiting on about that? Let's see. Encryptor says, here's a question. Is there a way to pre-roll when needing to punch in when recording, yet loop those layers for comping, but start at the pre-roll time? Yes. I believe there is. It's not a function that I use particularly, pre-roll. Don't tend to. I tend to use pre-count, so I'll set the metronome for a 2-bar count in before I start. But pre-roll, yes, you can do in Studio One. It's done at the transport bar at the bottom of the screen, kind of next to where the record button and all of that are. There's a little kind of, it's hard to describe, but there's a little kind of button there, and you click that and it goes red, and that's your pre-roll, and you can set that up for a couple of bars before, and then you can set the punch out so that it punches out at the right time as well, and you can loop it, so you can do loop record. And if you set your recording up to takes 2 layers, it will automatically, for each take you do on your loop, it will automatically save it to another layer, and then you can comp from those layers. It's what I did with my EP last year for the soprano sax solo on Chanel, the first song on that EP. I basically had the soprano sax player, Roger Key. He came in and we basically just looped it 3 times, and he did 3 takes. And pretty much every phrase, for the most part, was from take 1 and a couple from take 2. We didn't use the 3rd take at all, but that's how we did it. And it worked perfectly. So yeah, that would be the way that you do it, Mr. Encryptor. Let's see. David Bowman is here. Good to see you, David. He says, hi all, here's one. How many of you like using a subwoofer when mixing and mastering? I don't, because my room is only 9x7. If I had a sub, the bass energy in here would be far too much. Far too much. If you think about it, a 40 hertz, let's say a 40 hertz sine wave, well, that's going to be around about 16 feet long. If you were to stretch it out from your speaker cone outward, it would be about 16 feet long before it runs out of energy. So if that back door there, that back wall is 9 feet away, then what's going to happen is that bass note is going to come out of the bass ports of my speakers, is going to hit that wall before the waveform is fully developed, and even before it's run out of energy, and then it's going to cascade back into my room and cancel it out. So you'll end up with phase cancellation, at that particular frequency area. So that's why bass trapping is really, really important, particularly in a small room. Bass trapping is pretty much essential. Broadband, you can kind of get away with, you know, kind of like broadband upper mids kind of stuff, providing your walls are not parallel. If your walls are parallel, then yes, you're going to have to do at least first reflection treatment. But yes, I don't use a sub because my room is too small. If you have a 20-foot room, by all means, go and use a sub. You might find that you need it, particularly if you're standing at the back of the room and you don't hear the bass. If I stand at the back of the room, I hear plenty of bass, believe me. So for me, if I'm wanting to make sure that the bass is going to be good and adequate in my mix, then I need to roll back towards the back door. And then that tells me the bass is too much or too little. Because basically where I'm sitting here, what I'm getting is the bass coming back off the wall and into my mix position. So it's cancelling out what's coming from the speaker. They're basically going like that into each other. So yeah, you need to bear those kind of things in mind. So your room is not always telling you the truth, but your speakers are. So a couple of ways around that. Headphones, high quality, flat response headphones, and also, you know, kind of moving to another position in your room to check the low end. So no would be the answer to that. I'm going to just go back up and check some other questions. Peter says, how would you connect an outboard kind of effect to your setup, say a reverb? Is SPDIF the way to go, or line in out? SPDIF, I believe, is an option. But you could use a line level, or you could use, yeah, you could use line level or SPDIF. I would recommend either of those. Let's see, what else have I missed? Stereolab 62 is here. I think you're a new guy, but I think I have seen you in the Presonus forum. I think that's where I've come across you, or on the Presonus Studio One Facebook group. Not entirely sure where I've seen you before, but I recognize your name there. And you are a Sonar refugee. Welcome aboard the good ship Presonus, my friend. And he's Studio One as of last week, and he says it's quite enjoyable. Well, you know what? I'm really glad you are enjoying Studio One. I am an ex-Cubase user. 4 years ago, I switched from Cubase to Studio One, and I have never looked back. And I used Cubase for 25 years, or at least 25 years, in fact, right back to the days before there was Cubase, but the predecessors of Cubase that Steinberg made. So I've used Steinberg products from probably about 1987, 88, all the way through until 2014, 2013, in fact. And I jumped ship from Cubase after all those years. And I tell you, I was dedicated. I was passionate about Steinberg products, and I was passionate about Cubase. But really, it was crashing multiple times in the session. It was not correctly saving the work that I was doing. It meant that an album that I did in 2013 that should have taken 6 months to make ended up taking 15 months to make. And a whole bunch of other things that happened that I was just not happy with Steinberg. And so I quit Steinberg and I came over to Studio One. And in all that time, I think my computer, I think Studio One has crashed twice in that time, and my computer has not crashed once in that whole time. So Studio One is absolutely solid as a rockaroonie. Let's see. When I do it, Crypto says, when I do it that way, it just loops within the loop points. It doesn't start playing before the loop area. Does that make sense? I don't want to record the pre-roll area, just the loop area, but I want it to restart at the pre-roll spot when I reach the end of the last loop point. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I am not entirely sure about that. I will admit to you, I'm not entirely sure about that. I will have to do a little bit of experimentation John Anderson says, if I understand you correctly, the trick is to leave the loop marker off, draw it just like you would loop, but leave it grayed out. Then it will auto-record when inside the markers. There we go. I think that's pretty good. But Encryptor says, I can do that, but it will only give me one pre-roll pass, then the only repeat on the loop. It's like I need to loop inside of a loop. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that, Encryptor, because it's not really something I do particularly. It's not a workflow that I'd particularly do for recording. I tend to be a bit of a one-take guy, to be honest. Let's see. Woodbee says, when you mix someone's song, how do you ask for the files to be sent? Just the Studio One song files. What I tend to do, if they are not a Studio One user, and most of my clients are not Studio One users, I tend to get them to send me stems with no plugins rendered on the stems unless we have specifically discussed a specific thing, like maybe a guitar tone that is dialed in using certain plugins, and they are, that's kind of the tone for the song. Then that's different. I would accept that. I would accept those kind of things baked into the song. And then it would just be a case of, just a little bit of EQ to kind of bed it in with other guitar tracks, and maybe a little bit of complementary EQ so that they're separated, so all the guitar parts are separated out and all of that kind of business. So yeah, generally speaking, stems with no mix bus plugins, with no plugins whatsoever, as I say, unless we've got a previous arrangement in place. Frank asks, good to see you, Frank, by the way. He says, do you miss the Cubase feature set? There are some of the MIDI editing features I miss, but really not. For kind of that plus point of some of those MIDI editing features and the drum editing feature, which is the drum editing in Cubase was brilliant, but for those kind of plus points, the downsides were too much. An overly bloated software stuffed to the brim with legacy code. It's almost like the guys that develop Cubase kind of hoard all of their code from previous iterations of Cubase, just and then they store it within the software for safekeeping somehow. I don't know, but that's kind of how it appears to me. So it just means that the software just takes longer to do things that I think it should do pretty quickly and reliably. And Cubase was just, the last 4 or 5 years, was just painfully unreliable. I couldn't depend upon it to get through a session without messing up, which is not great for my clients, not great for me, not great for my heart, which I have to look after. I had an incident in 2004 that pretty much nearly took me out, so I have to look after my heart. So yeah, so pretty much for the things that I miss, I gain a lot more. And I gain you lovely folk for a start. Without Studio One, I would never encountered you guys, and I wouldn't be doing a live stream or anything like that. I wouldn't have even thought of it, to be honest. Skip says, I used an RTA and a cheap SPL to ring out my room. Yes, I pretty much did the same with an SPL meter. Don Han says, Studio One has never crashed on me either. Very stable for sure. Encryptor says, I used Cubase 5 for a few years. Worked really well for the time. Went to Reaper and loved it, and then made the jump to Studio One this Black Friday. I hear lots of good things about Reaper, but I also hear lots of bad things about Reaper as well. I mean, it's very, very inexpensive. It's probably one of the most inexpensive full-featured DAWs on the market. However, the drawback you get with that is that it's a little bit on the clunky side for doing things like routing and blessing. Blessing? Did I really just say that? It's because Woodbeast just said, we are blessed to have you. And I said blessing completely at random. It's like positive Tourette's. I don't know. Wow, that really train wrecked that thought there. True story of the routing scenario. Yes, busing. That's what I meant to say. Busing. Setting up buses and routing things to effects is just so clunky in Reaper. And as much as you can, you've got different themes and you can customize various aspects of the GUI. You know what? When you open the plugin GUIs, they just look cheap. Like, you know, they've had no love on them at all. It's just like, there's a slider for that. There's a slider for that. There's a slider for that. And it's just like, it's, you know, it doesn't look presentable. But I like the fact that, you know, they do have the mix of view in Reaper looks amazing. So there you go. Subliminal messaging, yes, Woodbeast, it certainly is, because you guys are definitely a blessing to me. And I thank you very much that you consider me a blessing to you. And that's what I aim to be. Encryptor says Reaper is good for free. I paid $60 for the license, but it wasn't needed. Yes. John Anderson says, Johnny, is there anything in the new Fat Channel that has become a go-to when starting a mix on a new song? Yeah, you know what? The compressors and the EQs. Absolutely, the vintage style compressors and EQs are fantastic. See, I don't have an 1176 third party, so I use the one that comes with the Fat Channel. And I don't have a Pultec EQ either, so I use that one. And I don't have a Neve EQ, so I use that one. So yeah, so I use the Fat Channel fairly heavily, but I also use the SSLE channel and G channels from Waves, and I have all the Slate stuff as well. So I guess I do actually have 1176s actually when I think about it, because they come in the virtual mix rack, which is very, very cool. If you've got $14 a month to spend, then go and spend it on the Slate Digital Everything bundle. Peter says, I saw someone who had a white GUI for Studio One. Do you know how to get that? Thought it looked smart. Yeah, I don't know about that. There are some people that are complaining that their screens are completely white. You know, just kind of white blank. I don't know what that's all about. That's got to be some kind of graphics thing, I would have thought. That would be my instinct. Seen a few people complaining about that. The GUI, actually, in Studio One version 3 is relatively customizable. You can certainly change the color. You don't have to have it black. I mean, a lot of people, it defaults to kind of this black look, which I really like. I really like the default dark look because it's easy on the eyes. It means I can be looking at my screen for a lot of time, a lot of hours mixing, and my eyes are not completely, you know, wasted and done by the end of the session. So I like the fact that you can do that, but you can change it to a lot of different colors. Like I know people that have got it looking like Cubase 5. I know some people that have got it looking fairly like Pro Tools, which is great. Y64 Studio says you have Johnny in the Slate bundle. Right, okay. Deirdre says the Slate bundle is huge. Yes, it is. And you know what? The funny thing is, when it's sitting in the browser in Studio One, it doesn't look like a lot. It looks like there's like maybe 15 plugins. But you know what? You open that virtual mix rack, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in there, which is very, very cool. Peter says working on it. Sorry, Skip says Peter working on it. Yes, so that must be a wee issue. Bobby says, is there a Slate? Is there an SSL 9000? There is an SSL 9000 console. Warren Hewitt has one. And they currently, I did actually see one, bizarrely enough. I saw an SSL 9000 on eBay for about $750,000. I think they retail brand new at like way over $1 million. So good luck with that. I don't think there's necessarily a specific plugin that models it, as far as I know. That would be my thinking on that. You guys are asking some really cool questions today, actually. I'm just going to take a cup of tea break. And note the Christmas mug, folks. Yeah, Skip says $1 bazillion. Yes. A friend of mine commented on my studio pic, my latest studio picture. And he's a great friend of mine, a guy called Bob David Bell. He's a singer-songwriter, and he's extremely good at what he does. I have done some work for him in the past, and we're kind of working our way slowly through an EP of his. But like with my old desk, I mean, he made the comment that with the old setup that I had in here, he could stand kind of here and do his guitar track, or he could sit kind of here and do his guitar track. But he was making the joke that with the new setup, he would have to, stand out in the hallway. Yeah, the desk doesn't. It looks like it takes up more of the room than it actually does. Bobby says IK has one called the White Channel based on the SSL 9000. Well, there you go. I don't use IK multimedia stuff, so I did not know that. So, Bobby, you have educated me, my friend. Thank you very much. And we have 23 people watching, which is epic. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And we're 32 minutes into the show. Frank Saracino, I think I got that right, says working on a project set up in Studio One with 8 mono tracks at 96K, imported from an old Ampex tape machine. Would you suggest leaving them in mono and use effects for stereo, or copy each track and pan? Well, if they were originally mono tracks in the first instance, I would suggest leaving them that way, because all you're going to do with changing the channel condition to stereo is that will give you the option to use stereo effects, but you can use stereo effects on a bus as well. So there's different ways to skin that particular cat. Yeah, if you're wanting stereo effects on a particular thing, like a stereo reverb on one of those tracks, then yes, you could change the channel condition to stereo. I mean, the track itself will not change. The track itself will be mono, because that's the original sound source. If the original sound source is mono, then it doesn't matter what you do. It will always be mono. It's just if you change the channel condition, you can apply stereo effects to that channel instead of mono. Dietrich says, I like the video, by the way. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Y64 Studio, sorry about that, random sound, says there is a SSL 9000 plugin bundle coming with Softube in Console 1. Awesome. That doesn't surprise me at all, because Softube have done some fantastic work with modeling SSL into their Console 1. So that's extremely cool. You guys are asking some absolute belter of questions. Keep them coming. We have about half an hour left of the show, so keep them coming. Studio Lab 62 says, I know this is an elementary question, but can one play a track unlooped while other tracks are being looped simultaneously? Not really. Can one play a track unlooped while the other tracks are being looped simultaneously? If the other tracks are all set up on a loop zone, then anything within that loop zone is going to be looped. Because essentially that's how tape machines work. That's exactly how a tape machine works. If you want it to go round and round, then you have the left playhead, the right playhead, and that's how it works. And all the tracks go through that same motion. So I don't think you can do that. John Anderson says, here's a quickie. What do you prefer, 44.1, 48, or higher? I am currently limited to 44.1. But you know what? 44.1 is the CD standard. And it's also the MP3 standard as well. It's the standard encoding format for MP3 and CD. And to be honest, that's what most people are used to listening to. Yes, 48K is going to give you a little bit of higher resolution. And 96K is going to give you even higher resolution. 192 is going to give you even higher. My question is, how much of that extra resolution is going to be perceptible to the human ear, to the average human ear? When you bear in mind that most people, if the the design of the human ear is that you hear from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Most people would fall into a much narrower bandwidth than that. A lot of people can't hear below 40, and a lot of other people can't hear above 12K. So, yeah. Encryptor says copy what you want looped and paste it after the first loop. Or you could just hit the D key on your keypad and duplicate the selected event as many times as you need to, and that effectively works like a loop. So if you have like a 4-bar pattern, then when you've recorded that 4-bar pattern, select it, press the D key maybe 3-4 times, and you'll get 16 bars out of that 4-bar pattern. And then that means you don't have to keep on doing copy paste. And then you can record linear fashion on top of that without any trouble. Dietrich says, I just realized you said an old 8-track. Yes, let me go back up, Frank. Was that an old, did you say it was a Tascam? Oh, it's an Ampex. Ampex. Yes, you know what? Way back, way back in the early 1980s. I used an Ampex 8-track as well. It was one of the first recording devices I ever had access to. Encryptor says, what? D button does that? Pretty much. I can show you if you want, Encryptor. I'll have to get Studio One open so we can kind of talk amongst ourselves. But I can easily just get Studio One open. And we can get going. I'll have to create a new track. Oh. Just bear with me a moment. It's decided it's going to scan my presets. Don't know why it's doing that. There we go. That was entertaining. All right, let's see. Let's see. I'm gonna open up a track here. Oh, you can't see this because I've not shared my screen yet. Don't. Screen share, entire window is share. Okay, now hopefully you guys will be able to see this in just a second. There is a delay. Now you can see my screen. Awesome. Alrighty, so I've got a whole bunch of loops here, which I created for another client because he needed some jazz waltz loops. So I got my my miniature cocktail drum set out and parked it in the hallway, and I came up with a whole bunch of different loops. So I came up with some loops and some fill. So let's go up to this one. Let's solo this one, and let's not solo that one. We'll go back to the beginning. So basically what I did was I created a 1-bar loop, just 1 bar, and then I duplicated that several times, and then I bounced it. Okay, so let's say we're going to take this 4-bar pattern here, and we want this to go to 12. Like, let's say we're going to do a 12-bar blues in 3, for example, in 3/4 time. I'm going to close those. But so that's dead easy to do. So if I select this event here, and if I go to my computer keyboard, which you can't see, and if I press D for Delta, doink, there we go. So I now have 8 bars, same pattern. So because it's a 4-bar thing, and a blues tends to be a 12-bar, let's stick in another one. There we go. Now I can go back and I can hide that because I can't see what I'm doing. I can go and I can change this loop zone now to the downbeat of bar 13, like that. And so if I press stop and go back to the beginning, and up here, I want to zoom to loop. Boink, my macro toolbar makes me zoom to loop, and I can play this. It's not entirely perfect. If you listen to the end, I kind of slowed up at the end of each bar, just a fraction. There's a little lope before you get to the downbeat. Because I was basically just trying to make a 1 bar pattern. So basically that's my, oh, that was supposed to loop and I forgot to press the loop button. Duh. So basically that's my snare drum with my brushes, and I got my little floor tom out, and I stuffed a pillow inside the floor tom, put an SM58 in front of that, and I used this actually as an overhead. Mono overhead, mono kick drum, hi-hat, snare drum, floor tom, makeshift kick drum, and that's how I made this little loop. So I could do a little blues. Like this now. So let's give myself a 2 bar turnaround. So I'm going to start here. Or something like that. Not entirely accurately perfect, but hey, there you go. So, sorry, a little bit of showing off there. But yeah, so when you hit the, let me just get my chair moving, it's got stuck. There we go. So when you hit the D key, that's what you get. So I hope that is enormously and wondrously helpful to you. Of course, I don't see the chat when that happens. So Encryptor says I need to go back. I need to go look through the shortcut key mappings. I know very little of the shortcuts. Yeah, well, you know what? They're actually really easy to learn. And the other thing you can do, if you've got some spare cash kicking about, like a spare, I don't know, $120. Not many people have that kind of money, but if you do, I can wholeheartedly recommend you get one of these guys. This is the Editor's Keys backlit keyboard for Studio One. It's got all the, well, not all, but it's got like the most commonly used shortcuts mapped out for you. And it's got this nifty little light as well that you can turn on and off, on and off, on and off. And I have it on pretty much all the time. Yeah, you can get one of those. There's Logic keyboards also make one, which is it's got a lot more shortcuts mapped out on it. But it's well worth getting. Skip needs to go and check his meatloaf. Which one is that? Is that Bat Out of Hell, Skip? Would be asked, any clue what a TIAC 2340S is worth? No. But I would imagine a fair amount these days. I'd imagine it's worth quite a lot. If you have one, yeah, you're probably quids in there. Peter says, Encryptor, my favorite is the N button for snapping to grid on and off. Yes, that's a good one. Editor's Keys makes keyboard. Yep, which I've just mentioned, John. Thank you very much, buddy. Bobby deleted his message. I don't know why. Whoopi says, is it worth anything? It is mine and it works well. Skip says, yes, actually, you'll find low and high prices. It is 80s gear, and if it's in good condition, it is valuable. Definitely. If it's in good condition and it's early 1980s, then it is worth a good amount of money. And the best place to go to really is to kind of some kind of auction house. That might be worth looking into. Some kind of audio auction, other than somewhere like eBay. I wouldn't do it on eBay. Skip says, you're just jealous of my meatloaf and mac and cheese. Good grief. Meatloaf, mac, and cheese? Wow. That's just gluttony. No, it's not. I'm only kidding. I can turn that thing over there off. But yes. Awesome. Where are we at now? We got about 15, maybe more minutes, 15, 20 minutes left of the show. So if you've got more questions, keep them coming in. We got 16 people in here now. We did have 23 earlier, I'm pretty sure. But I guess it is kind of tea time that I'm doing these. Tea time on a Sunday is maybe not the best scheduling. But that said, I didn't want to do too late for me here because, school run in the morning. Because, it's like fast approaching 1 a.m. here for me. So if I was to do it at kind of like early evening for you guys would be, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock. Well, that's going to be like 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So that would be doing a 2 until 3 o'clock in the morning show when I have to be up at like 7 at the absolute latest to get my kids to school. So, yes. I suppose I could do like a Sunday afternoon for you guys show, but that would be a Sunday morning for me. And I would be at church, so that would be a no-go either. So pretty much at the moment, I can't really think of any better scheduling than doing 6 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon. I may need to talk to a few people and see if we can come up with something better that works for you guys over in the States on a Sunday. That works just as well for me here as well. That would be handy. So anybody got any other questions? Seeing as I have a Studio Live 16 console, we can talk about that as well, if you've got questions about that. Frank says, how does one improve mixing and mastering techniques? I get overwhelmed with all the choices on YouTube for learning best practices and that kind of thing. I would say for me anyway, yes, I did go to university and I did study audio at university as part of my degree. So I did, I studied jazz composition and arranging and audio. So that's what I did. But for the most part, most of my learning didn't come from being in lecture studios and having stuff taught to us didactically. Most of my learning came from being at a console and talking to engineers whenever I was in the studio, because I basically, to help support myself financially, I did some studio work as a session musician, and I made myself familiar to the mix engineers, the recording engineers, and I made myself helpful to them, as helpful as I possibly could. And that gave me the chance to ask lots of questions. Now, the good thing about YouTube is that, certainly me and, Johnny Gibe and Dave Vignola, a lot of what we do is methodical. A lot of what we teach is methodical. So particularly Dave, for example, Dave has, he has a Studio One for Beginners series, which takes you through all of the basics of recording, mixing, and mastering in Studio One. But he has also a great couple of things that are worth getting. He has compression made easy. He has EQ made easy. They are both of those are fantastic, because your two most important tools for building a mix is EQ and compression. And Dave is brilliant at the way he explains, particularly compression, because most people, it takes them a long time to get hold of compression and how that works. Particularly for a lot of people, it's how to control the attack and release of a compressor that a lot of people stumble over that for a long time. In fact, there are a good number of professional mix engineers who are working professionally, making a living from it, who, you go up to them and you say, do you understand the attack profile of an 1176? And they're just like, no. I just turn the input and the output dials until it sounds great. And then I adjust the attack and release knobs until it sounds great. And that's what they do. And for them, they've worked out with their ears what sounds good on a kick drum, what sounds good on a snare drum, so they know where those dials need to go according to their ears. So that it's kind of a little bit of aural memory that goes on there. So learn by doing is what I would say, and supplement that with watching my videos, watching Johnny Gibe's videos, watching Dave's videos, or come and join a community like learningtomix.com, where for $19 a month, you get access to Pete Woj and Dave Vignola, and it's a great community there. And we're all pretty much in the same boat. The average mixing experience of the average person there is 1 to 2 years. So there's a lot of people in that kind of early beginning bracket and a few intermediates, and then there's a few of us kind of pros. I don't like to use that term because to me that sounds a little bit elitist, and I don't like to be elitist. At the end of the day, we are all learning. We are all learning something. Just because I make a living out of this, and have done for a few years, it doesn't mean, hey, I know everything there is to know about mixing and mastering. There are still things that I need to learn, and there are still areas of my mixing that I need to develop and I need to work on and I need to hone and fine tune. And so, those are things that I do by practicing. And if I don't have any mixing jobs in the diary, then I find stems. And that's where somewhere like learningtomix.com is brilliant, because every month there's a fresh set of stems. You download those stems, you get to mixing it, and you can enter that mix into a contest, and you can win plugins and stuff. Plus, you can share your mixes with the user community, and you get fantastic feedback. And it's like iron sharpens iron. Get yourself involved in a good community. Now, there's the Home Studio Trainer Support Group, which is another fantastic community, which doesn't cost anything, by the way. But what's really cool about that little community, again, iron sharpens iron. We all get better together by critiquing each other's mixes. So Whitby says, Skip, we know we can hear you slurping your food. Yeah, absolutely. Especially especially the meatloaf. Wow. And the mac and cheese. And heavily buttered cornbread. Oh, my word. Good grief. Yeah, nom nom, says Skip. I bet that's delicious, mate. What did I have for dinner? I had. What did I have? Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's right. I had Aberdeen Angus steak and chips. Bobby Biz says, go to mixingsecrets.com and you can get a lot of stems. Yes, there are an absolute plethora of stems in a variety of styles of music. And actually, some of them have been fantastically recorded. Some of them, not quite so well recorded, which means, you have to do a little bit more work to get the mix to come together. But extremely well worth going there as well to go and get your mixing muscles worked. So yeah, learn by doing. It's the best way. It's the only way, in my opinion. If you want to get good at what you do, work hard at it. Put in the repetitions, and you will get there, and your ears will get so finely tuned that you'll be, I don't know if this is other people's experience, but certainly this is mine. I can be listening to music. Chips are like fries. Yes, in that case, in that context, Skip. Yes. I can be sitting in a restaurant and I can be listening to, and I can go, oh yeah, I like the EQ of that guitar. I like the way I love the way this song has been balanced. Crisps are like chips. Crisps are like chips. Yeah, chips are like fries. What you call fries, we call chips. And what we call crisps, you guys call chips. I believe that's correct. So if I'm eating a packet of crisps, I'm eating a packet of chips, I guess. Whoopi says, OMG, that I had that. Sounds good. I had Riff, Rabbit, and Cellar Squirrel salad. Stereolab 62 says, you're in the UK. Can you not hear it in my accent, my friend? Yes, I am in the UK. Specifically, I am in Scotland. Specifically, I'm in Edinburgh, in Scotland. And as you all need to know, and you are new to my channel here, Studio Labs, so I'll just let you know that Scotland is the capital of the world, okay? I'm kidding. Yes, so we are 57 minutes into this. We're going to go for another 5 minutes or so. We've got 16 people still here, which is epic. It's great. So thank you so much, you guys, all of you, for coming out and asking some great questions. We'll go for another few minutes. Frank says, I hope Studio One comes up with project sharing like VST Link and Cubase for collaboration with projects. Ah, it's funny you should say that. It's not exactly the same thing, but if you have Dropbox, you can access Dropbox from your browser, which means if you want to send a track to somebody, you can send it via Dropbox by drag and drop. If you don't believe me, I can show you. So I need to do this whole clunky thing again. Share the screen, go down to Studio One. Let's see. Yes, I've got my Files tab open here already. Bravo. So I'll show you how this works. So you've got instruments, effects, loops, files, cloud, and pool. Now, if I was to go to files, this is kind of what it looks like. You've got access to your desktop here. And then you've got documents, Studio One, sound sets, and then volumes. Now, volumes, this is all the hard drives that are connected to your computer, either internally or externally via USB. So if I open this, the first volume that opens up is my OS disk. This is my C drive on my PC, because that's what I have. And then you've got program files, 32-bit, then users, then Johnny, that's me, contacts, desktop again, documents, downloads, Dropbox, because I have Dropbox installed on this computer. Now, if I go down here, this is, you can see I've got lots of different folders here with different people's names on them. And I've got some tracks just stuffed in here, and these are all my other removable drives that are attached to my computer. If I go down here to this client folder here, and if I open that, you can see that there's a couple of tracks that are already there. Let's say I want to send this 13-bar track here that we made earlier. Let's say we want to send this to my mysterious client over here. And we've called it Groove Loop. So what we'll do is we will select the first. I'll hold Shift and select the last. Oh, hang on, and the middle. There we go. That didn't quite work so well. I could have just gone and dragged across like that, and that selects all three of those events. And then I do Control B. So if I hold down Control or Command on a Mac and B, boink, it bounces it into one long stem, which is what you want when you're sending stems to somebody. So this is what I do when I'm doing session work. So let's say this was a 12-bar blues pattern that somebody asked me to play drums on a 12-bar blues, and they just wanted me to create a groove. So this is what I came up with. Then I just send this off. I do this with bass parts a lot, and with piano parts, not necessarily Fender Rhodes, but yes, a lot of times Fender Rhodes, but sometimes Hammond, sometimes just Steinway Grand or something else. I might get asked to do. And this is how I do it. I make sure that my Studio One session is at the same tempo that their song is going to be at. So they would send me like an MP3 guide track, and they would send information about the key. They maybe give some chord changes. They don't always give chord changes, by the way. Sometimes they do. It's really helpful when they do, but they don't always. And the tempo. So in this case, it's 90 beats a minute, and we're in 3/4. So they would send me this guide track. I'd play along to the guide track. And then what I would do is I grab this track like this, boink, and drag it to the client folder, doink, like that. And there it is, Groove Loop, right there. And then as you can see, I've got a little blue dot here on my Dropbox in my tray here, and it says uploading. And it's got 8 seconds left to do it. And eventually that will arrive in the client folder. And then what that means is my mysterious client, whoever that is, will be able to open that folder if they have access to it, and they can pull that track out and drag it straight back into Studio One. By the same way, just in reverse. They just literally grab the track and pull it into their session, and it's there. So you can collaborate that way. You can send session files in a similar kind of way, not by direct dragging and dropping the entire session into here. That would be great. But you could certainly grab all of your stems, like I could grab all of these, and I could drag all of those into a specific folder, and send that off for somebody else to mix if I needed to. If I needed to send the actual Studio One session, including all the associated imaging data, all the wave forms, the audio files that go with it, then you have to do it in a slightly different way, and it's a little bit more complicated. But you can certainly send tracks back and forth via Dropbox like this pretty quickly. So I hope that is helpful. So yeah, Frank, I hope that answers your question. Whoopi says, only because of Nessie. Bobby Booth says, your world. No, Bobby. The world. Most of the technology that you have, including television and Skype and that kind of stuff, was pioneered right here in Scotland. But you wouldn't know that because... Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road. Skip Jones says, you can share. Absolutely. Whoopi says, file transfer. Check out WeTransfer. Yes. You can do WeTransfer, you can do Dropbox, you can do any of those. But Dropbox works for Studio One, from my experience. Dropbox works best because you don't have to, you can do it all directly in Studio One. You don't have to then take the file out, put it on the desktop or on somewhere where you can get quick access to it. You know, you can do it in one step instead of 2 or 3 to get it sent off. Skip says there are some rabbit hole you can go into. Be careful. Let's see, what else have I missed? Studio Lab 62 says, stupid question. No such thing as a stupid question here, so please rephrase. Never say stupid question. What year did Studio One debut, if I may? I believe version 1 was in 2009. Skip is one of the very first guys to use Studio One, so he probably knows that better than me, but I'm pretty sure it is 2009. Whoopi says, Skip, I prefer FTP to my remote server, but some folks are so set in their ways they prefer to use the easy way. Deirdre says, good night, guys. Thanks, Johnny, again for your knowledge, and my fellow music lovers for your support. And Lorenz has just joined us, and he says, hey, guys. Frank says, can Studio One do tempo detection on an audio file? Yes, it can. But we're kind of past time for me to be able to show you that right now. I could maybe show you that next week. We could look at tempo detection on an audio file. I could drag in one of my songs and just bring it into just a regular random session and get it to detect the tempo. It's kind of not precisely tempo detection. It's a little bit different, but you can create a tempo map from an audio file. Y64 Studio says, "Good night, all. I'm done for today." Well, you know what? So am I. Frank says, "Okay, I'll look it up. Just asking." You know what? That's absolutely fine, Frank. I'm always glad to have your questions. So we are at 1:05 in the morning, and I still have 15 people here, which is epic. Thanks ever so much, everybody, for your great, great, great questions. They've been fantastic. This has been a really good show. Thanks ever so much. And as I said, we are getting too close to Christmas, so I've even started to get we've got our Christmas tree up. Maybe next week you'll find like maybe a small little tree or something will go up at the back of the studio. So we've got something Christmassy in shot, at least. And so yeah. Whippy says, "Who the hell did a thumbs down?" Well, yes. I would like to know that too, but unfortunately YouTube doesn't tell you who liked and who disliked. But there we go. Oh, and Dave Vignola is here, Home Recording Made Easy. He says, "Hi, guys. Sorry I'm late. I thought I'd say hello." Well, you know what, Dave? I really appreciate you coming in, but we are just about to wrap up the show. I'm going to sign off. But thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate it. Anyway, and coming to say hello. I will. Yes, Santa hats. That's a great idea. I'll maybe nick one of my kids' Santa hats. That'd be fun. And I'll maybe see if I can get some royalty-free Christmas music as well, so we don't get a copyright strike. All right, folks. I will see you guys all next time. Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central Time, over at Jonny Gibe's YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube/the music is one word, and music is spelled MUZIC. Go there Wednesday at this time. Jonny and I will be doing our regular weekly Songwriting Simplified podcast, which we do live on YouTube. So join us then. Join Jonny every night this coming week, Monday through Friday, for his live streams. They are awesome, and you will learn tons. And then next Sunday, at the moment, I'm planning to do a show right here on this YouTube channel. So until then, folks, I bid you all a very good evening and a very good night and a very good morning to my friends across Europe. Take care, folks. And as I like to say, bye for now.